The day I said I do to Alex, my hands trembled not from nerves but from the weight of a secret that could destroy us both. Standing there in that sunlit chapel, surrounded by smiling faces and white roses, I looked into his eyes, the same eyes that had haunted my nightmares for years, and wondered if he could see the ghost of my past staring back. It was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but as the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, a chill ran down my spine. Alex leaned in for our first kiss as a married couple, his lips warm and familiar, but all I could think about was Ethan, my first love, and how Alex had taken him from me without even knowing who I was. It all started back in college, when life felt like an endless adventure. Ethan and I met in a crowded lecture hall, our eyes locking over a shared notebook. He was the kind of guy who made you believe in forever, kind, ambitious, with a laugh that could light up the darkest room. We spent lazy afternoons picnicking by the lake, dreaming about our future. One day we'll travel the world, he'd say, his fingers intertwined with mine. But that dream shattered on a rainy night during our senior year. Ethan was driving home from a late study session when a drunk driver swerved into his lane. The crash was brutal. Ethan's car flipped and he didn't make it. I was devastated, curled up in my dorm room for weeks, sobbing into his old sweatshirt that still smelled like him. The police report named the driver Alex Harlan, a young man who'd had one too many at a party. He walked away with minor injuries and a manslaughter charge, but served only probation after a plea deal. I followed the trial obsessively, my grief turning to rage as I saw his face in the newspapers, remorseful but free. Years passed, and I tried to rebuild. I changed my name from Sarah to Mia after a fresh start in a new city, burying the old me along with Ethan's memory. Therapy helped, but the pain lingered like a scar that never fully heals. Then fate or cruelty brought Alex into my life. We met at a coffee shop. I was spilling my latte and he caught it with a charming smile. "Looks like you needed a hero," he joked, and something in his easy confidence drew me in. We dated for months, then years. He was different now, sober, successful. A man who'd turned his life around after a terrible mistake in his past. He told me about the accident vaguely, never mentioning names, just that it haunted him. "I killed someone," he confessed one night, tears in his eyes. "A guy my age. It was an accident, but I'll never forgive myself." My heart stopped. I knew then, but I said nothing. Why? Part of me wanted to understand him, to see if redemption was possible. Another part, darker, wanted revenge in the slowest, most intimate way. As our relationship deepened, the tension built inside me like a storm cloud. I'd lie awake next to him, listening to his steady breathing, and remember Ethan's last text. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." Alex proposed on a beach at sunset, the waves crashing like applause. I said yes, but my mind screamed no. Was this love or a twisted form of justice? Friends envied our fairy tale romance, but they didn't know the undercurrents, the way I'd flinch when he drove too fast, or how I'd stare at old photos of Ethan hidden in my drawer. On our wedding night, as we danced under the stars, he whispered, "You're my second chance." I forced a smile, but inside I was unraveling. How could I build a life with the man who'd destroyed my first one? And yet, there was a pull, a genuine affection that confused everything. The honeymoon was a blur of tropical beaches and forced intimacy. I remember sitting on the balcony, watching the ocean, and feeling the weight of my deception. Alex sensed something was off. "What's bothering you, Mia?" he asked, his hand on mine. I brushed it off, but the secrets were piling up. One evening, as we walked along the shore, he opened up more about the accident. "The guy's girlfriend. I never met her, but I heard she was shattered. I wish I could apologize." My throat tightened. That was me. The shattered girl he'd never known. I almost told him then, the words on the tip of my tongue. But fear held me back. What if it broke us? What if it broke me? As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in blood-red hues, I realized this marriage was a ticking bomb. But the real explosion came when I discovered something in his old journals, hidden in our luggage. A detail about that fateful night that changed everything. It wasn't just an accident. There was more to it, something he'd buried deep. My hands shook as I read the entry, the truth dawning like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. The journal entry hit me like a freight train, words scrawled in Alex's familiar handwriting. I wasn't alone that night. My buddy switched seats after the crash, said he'd take the blame, but I couldn't let him. The guilt is mine. I sat on the hotel bed, the tropical breeze doing nothing to cool the fire in my chest. All these years I'd blamed him solely, But now doubt crept in. Was Alex covering for someone? The raw pain of Ethan's loss surged back, mixed with a new betrayal. My husband had lied, even to me. I confronted him that night, the journal clutched in my fist. "What is this?" I demanded, my voice trembling. He looked up from his book, face paling. "Mia, where did you find that?" But as I pressed, the story unraveled. His friend, drunker than him, had been driving. Alex took the wheel after, claiming responsibility to protect the guy who had a family. "I thought it was the right thing," he whispered, tears streaming. "But it ruined lives." The confrontation escalated into a storm of emotions. I screamed about Ethan, revealing my true identity. Sarah, the girl whose world he'd shattered. "You killed my first love," I cried, collapsing onto the floor. Alex's eyes widened in horror. "Sarah! Oh God, no!" He fell to his knees, begging forgiveness, explaining how he'd searched for me after the trial, wanting to make amends but never finding me. The twist gutted me. He'd changed his life because of that night, volunteering at sobriety programs, helping others avoid his mistakes. But the lie about the driver, it was his cross to bear, a secret he'd kept to shield a friend. In that moment, my rage cracked, revealing the hurt beneath. We talked through the night, raw confessions spilling out like blood from old wounds. "I married you without knowing," he said, voice breaking. "But I love you, Mia, Sarah, whoever you are." As dawn broke, something shifted. The heartbreak was still there, a deep, aching void, but confronting it brought clarity. I realized my marriage wasn't just revenge. It was a path to understanding forgiveness. Not for him, but for myself. Ethan wouldn't want me trapped in bitterness. Over the following weeks, we navigated the fallout. Therapy sessions were brutal, filled with tears and accusations, but also moments of grace. Alex owned his part fully, even contacting authorities to correct the record, risking everything. His friend faced consequences, and Alex served time for perjury. It was a shocking turn, one that tested us to our core. Through it all, I evolved. The girl who'd lost everything became a woman who chose her own narrative. I grieved Ethan properly, visiting his grave with Alex by my side. A surreal, healing ritual. "I'm sorry," Alex whispered to the headstone. And in that vulnerability, I saw his humanity. Our marriage survived, transformed by truth. It wasn't easy. There were nights I questioned everything, but emerging from the darkness, I felt empowered. Betrayal had led me here to a strength I never knew I had. Sometimes the hardest paths reveal our true power, whispering that healing comes not from forgetting, but from facing the storm head-on. Looking back now, with the maturity of time, I see how tragedy reshaped me. The quiet acceptance came slowly, like waves smoothing jagged rocks. I reclaimed my power by choosing love over hate, forgiveness over vengeance. If you're carrying a secret that weighs you down, know this: confronting it might break you, but it can also set you free. Ethan taught me to dream. Alex taught me to heal. And in the end, I taught myself to rise.